was a creationist. There is great discrimination against those who believe in creation. Just like in the Soviet Union 10 years ago, they would discriminate against a capitalist. I've got seven people from the Soviet Union on my staff, one of them running the camera back there. They will tell you, in Soviet Union 10 years ago, if you believed in creation or if you were a Christian, they would not allow you to graduate from high school. You certainly could not go on to college. Then they could say, all college graduates believe in evolution, therefore it must be true. Which is a silly argument. A teacher, Rod LeVake in Faribault, Minnesota, was reassigned because he doubted Darwin's theory was true. They took him out of the biology class. So, shall Christ come out of Galilee? Folks, the argument is silly. The majority of people saw Jesus was the Messiah. The Pharisees couldn't see it. And the majority of the population sees creation is the obvious truth. And some of the scientists say, well, it can't be true because we scientists don't believe in it. That is just a ridiculous argument. They're arguing about the wrong subject. The question was not, did Jesus come out of Galilee? That's not the question. Jesus was born in Bethlehem. And scientists today often argue about the wrong topic. They'll say, well, creation can't be proven scientifically, therefore evolution must be true. And you talk about a wild-haired idea. That is one right there. No, you can't prove either view, creation or evolution, scientifically. Both have to be taken by faith. But the obvious evidence is there must have been a designer. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. It says here in John, some of the people would have taken him, but no man laid hold on him. So it follows along with the same kind of thing. If you don't like someone's message, kill the messenger. If the fella comes to bring you a telegram, you know, Western Union telegram, ma'am, and you read the telegram, I don't like that telegram. So you shoot the guy that brought it to you. He's just delivering the message, that's all. And if you don't like the message that God created the world and he's going to be your judge someday, well, then don't get mad at me. Take it out on God. Or get your heart right with God. They said in John 7:45, the officers came, why have you not brought him? Notice they sent their students to take him. They didn't go themselves. And many people who disagree with creation are trying to use the law to silence creation. They will actually try to pass laws to prevent creation going into the textbooks. Or they will try to sue somebody who teaches creation in their class. They can't use logic, so they're going to use the law and make it illegal to teach a certain doctrine. That is just simply not common sense. In verse 47, they answered them, Pharisees, are you also deceived? Let me translate that. Are you stupid? Since we don't believe any of it must not be right. This is exactly what the scientists are doing today. Some scientists are doing with their pupils. Are you so dumb you believed in creation too? And the average student in a public university is going to get all kinds of this kind of scoffing from at least one of his teachers will try to ridicule him if he believes in creation. In other words, all scientists believe in evolution and the scientific journals don't support creation, therefore it must be true. Well, I'll tell you what. Send in an article to a science journal that supports creation. Send in the article that supports creation to a science journal, and it won't be published. It's discrimination. This people which know not the law are cursed, he said in John 7:49. In other words, we have knowledge, you don't. Let me see your degree, please. Nothing has changed, folks. In 2,000 years, they're using the exact same tactic they used on Jesus Christ. He said, doth our law judge any man before it hear him? At least some of the non-believers had common sense enough to realize, hey, there's something to this. And if you're watching this tape or listening here today, and you have the common sense to realize, man, maybe evolution isn't true. Well, yay. Everybody ought to have enough common sense to figure that out. Many scientists down through history have believed in creation. We could start with Francis Bacon back in 1561 when he was born, who developed our scientific method. Johann Kepler, who developed scientific astronomy. Many people, we'll just flash some names up here quickly. All of these folks were creationists. Now, they weren't all biblical, young earth, Bible-believing creationists, though the majority were. And they weren't even all Christians, though many were. But they developed just about every major branch of science that we have today was developed by creationists. There's a great list of these with a lot of detail on them on the Answers in Genesis website, answersingenesis.org, where you can get this list and many other, lots of other good information about scientists who believe in creation. So these fellows all through history were creationists. They were not evolutionists. See, the evolution theory is like a leech. They come in and take over what somebody else has done. They don't produce anything on their own. Major branches of science developed by creationists. Just about everyone we have in the world today. As a matter of fact, some have argued they can't think of anything that the evolution theory has added to real science. The evolution theory has not helped us get to the moon. It didn't help us get computers or calculators. It hasn't done anything. One fellow argued, well, yeah, the evolution theory is how we explain modern medicine with bacteria mutating. Well, duh, it's still a bacteria. Okay? That's not evolution. It's a variation within the same strand. Still a bacteria. So, people say, what about separation of church and state? Can you teach creation in schools? Well, this idea of separation of church and state is ridiculous. There is no such phrase mentioned in the Constitution. In the Constitution, it says, Congress shall make no law establishing a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. It does not say there is separation of church and state. That phrase was used in a letter by Thomas Jefferson to a pastor Danbury, a Baptist in Dayton, Connecticut in 1802. Jefferson said, the First Amendment has erected a wall of separation between church and state. By the way, this is a one-dimensional wall, which means the Congress cannot get involved in the church's business. But to get around that, they've tricked an awful lot of churches into becoming 501c3 corporations. See, the government creates and owns and regulates corporations, not the church. And a true church, a real Bible-believing, true New Testament church, is not incorporated and does not have 501c3 status. Because once you do that, you've put the church under the government. And they do have the authority to regulate you. Get rid of that corporation status and become a real true church, and a lot of your problems will disappear. Like in our ministry, we're a branch of a local New Testament Bible-believing unincorporated church. So when we build a building, we don't get a building permit. We can't, because that would be putting God under the government. Ask the folks at your local county building office, inspectors and stuff, ask them if a federal government came in here, if the federal government came in to build a building like the Navy base here in Pensacola, do you guys at the county inspect the Navy base? And they'll say no. They have their own inspectors. We have no jurisdiction over them because they're federal.